Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. You all know me, Nathan Schwartz, and joining me from New Zealand, Dylan Williamson. Dylan, how's it going?
Very good. Nothing gets me going quite as much as your signature intro.
I do try. I try to maintain a little bit of consistency. I'm actually kind of sad that I can't just straight up copy other people's signature intros because I think I listen to a lot of the GOAT podcast, and they have a big warm hello and welcome to, and so but wouldn't be me.
Also, we're not friends with Pearl Jam yet, so we can't have that.
Our old co-host that got us the intro song, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, is friends with Lady Loop, so we can say that we're friends adjacent with Lady Loop.
We got connections that got connections to get us tunes.
Exactly.
I can't wait till they find out one day. They're like, wait a minute, those guys are still using our song.
Richard's not even on the pod anymore?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I said that Richard could use it, not whoever the fuck these guys are. You guys owe us 6 years worth of royalties.
So I keep meaning to get StreamYard loaded up with the songs that we actually could play it live, and I don't have to edit it into the background. But every time I've spliced it into a YouTube video, which has only been 3 times or something, YouTube flags it for copyright infringement. It's like, nice. You're stealing Lady Loop by Animal Liberation Orchestra, and I'm like, no, they gave us permission.
You send them screenshots of the Facebook message from 2018 where they said you could use it.
It's even worse. Richard went to their show and talked to them in person about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a verbal agreement from a guy who's no longer part of this.
Yeah, trust me, it's okay. It's all on the up and up.
Guys, they said it was fine. I will use I'll go to Pearl Jam's next show. I'll ask Eddie if I can use one of the songs, and we'll go from there.
Listen, I'm gonna need you to do something one better. I'm gonna need you to go to an Iggy Azalea show, and we'll have to say friend of the pod, Iggy Azalea.
Is she still making music? Does she do shows?
I don't know.
Why do you want Iggy Azalea of all people?
I was trying to think of who is a very famous New Zealand based artist, and I was like, Iggy's as close as I got. She's Australian, right?
That was the first one that came to your mind. Not Lord.
Is Lord or New Zealand?
Lord's from New Zealand, man. She's from New Zealand. Yeah. She's the most famous New Zealand artist in the world.
Can we get her on the pod?
I mean, she's on my wall. I guess I could if I. Oh shit! I was moving my laptop as if the webcam was set up to it. She's on my wall. I guess that's the closest we could do. No, man, she's living in New York now.
All right, well, Dylan, you've got a mission. Next time Lord comes back to New Zealand for a show, you have to attend and get backstage passes and her verbal commitment to allow us to use a Lord song as our intro for the pod.
Yeah, I was way ahead of you. I had that plan. Regrettably, the tickets sold out before I could purchase. So I'll be on the outside looking in. Maybe I'll just wait for her at the backstage, exit. Have you seen Almost
This has
Famous?
No flaws.
I'll what's her name? God, Penny Lane. I'll Penny Lane at her backstage exit to be like, hey, I've got a great opportunity for you.
I forget if it was Bobby Marks or Howard Beck, but one of them is teaching a journalism course at a university, and they appeared on the Low Post, and he mentioned that Almost Famous was part of his curriculum, that he required all of his students to go watch Almost Famous as what not to do in journalism. Like you can't count anything. You got to maintain some objectivity as journalists. You cannot be.
Wait, so I'm not allowed to go on the bus with the team?
You cannot go on the bus with the team, but with Lord, we're not covering music. You're all good.
All right.
All right. I'll try to see if I can do the same for Eminem. We'll see which one of us has better success.
Oh, he's from. Is he the most famous Michigander?
I would say so. It's either him or Kid Rock, and I don't want to use a Kid Rock
How about
song.
Kid Rock? Let's we pivot into right-wing grifting.
God, there's so much money in that. That's really what we should do.
It's an NBA podcast, but it's funded
for Republicans.
But for Republicans, we're funded by the Koch brothers. We are pushing propaganda about what are all the stereotypes? Playing the right way, IQ over athleticism, getting back to fundamentals, having respect for the game, and Larry Bird is better than Michael Jordan.
I'm pretty sure Austin Reeves just moved up our rankings.
Austin, and at number 50 is Austin Reeves. Number 51, we got Duncan Robinson.
Alex Caruso, 53. Before we get into 51 through 75, I do just have to ask, Dylan, it's August 25th over there right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How'd you spend your Mamba Day yesterday? 8/24, baby. You did remember the national holiday.
Damn, that's crazy. I never even thought about that. It's terrible in New Zealand because we are a day ahead, but like so much of like the media that we consume is American, right? So if I like go on Twitter or like Instagram or TikTok or whatever, I'm looking at stuff from the day before, and so whenever it's like April Fools, I have to like endure it for 2 whole days.
Oh,
and
that's brutal.
Or like it's Valentine's Day. It's like, oh shit, that was yesterday. It's just like to rub it in, I'll get a whole bunch of TikToks and be like, it was Dylan's mom's birthday yesterday. I'm like, oh shit. Everyone on Twitter is like, happy birthday to Dylan's mom. I'm like, oh shit.
That is as an unfortunate side effect. I remember once trying to talk you into doing a New Year's Day pod because I was like, yeah, it'll be like 6 o'clock for me. I'll go do my New Year's stuff afterwards. You're like, I don't want to get up that early. I was like, this is a great concept because you'll be in the future. You'll be in 2024. We're still in 2023. You can tell us who won the title. It can be like this whole like gimmicky mock thing. And you're like, no, I'm gonna go party and I'm not waking up for this podcast.
Wow. I was such a fraud in my younger and more formative years. Mate,
Exactly.
New Year's Day I think is like a Wednesday. I have to work, and so I will wake up at 5 a.m. We can pod beforehand, and I will give you all the insights from the year 2026.
Yes. Hell yeah, we locked it in.
Austin Reeves, MVP, the Utah Jazz championship and all.
All right, let's do this. Number 51. Man, you actually ranked as the 51st best player. Aaron Gordon, coming off an insane playoff run for him where he became just a magical three-point shooter. He's always good at hitting threes in the playoffs. What are we expecting from Gordon this next year?
I mean, he single-handedly beat the Clippers. Like, if you put just about any other player in that spot and the Clippers win the series and they're in the conference finals, maybe even the championship. We almost beat the team that almost beat the team that won the championship. So you could, we were right there. But I think most difficult thing with Aaron Gordon is, which we talked about previously, is the Jokic tax of like, okay, this guy is ultra efficient, converts everything around the rim, is now getting incredibly efficient at spot-up shooting and is one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. Can contribute on both ends of the glass, can make things happen as a cutter, but how much of that is because he's got the best passer and offensive player in the league beside him? And so I think that in a vacuum, there might be an argument for him to be even higher. We put the likes of OG Anunoby and Larry Markkinen even a little bit higher. I think you could make an argument that maybe Aaron Gordon, in terms of the value that he has provided, would be more comparable to some of those guys. But with a slight Jokic tax, 51 feels about right.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like he's going to provide you like 70% of the shooting of a Markkinen and maybe like 80% of the defense of an OG, which, hey, that's great. I love that combination, that blend. He wasn't perfectly healthy last year. He played just 51 games. I'm interested to see because the Nuggets play him in a lot of the lineups without Jokic, kind of as the primary big, or it'll be like him and Zeke Naji. Now that they've gotten like a decent core or a decent bench, is he able to kind of sustain his play a little bit better, or without Jokic on the floor? Is he able to pair with Jonas Valanciunas and Cam Johnson? Like, are some of these lineups just going to be at a higher level with Jokic off the floor now? And maybe that does make Gordon look a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, and also maybe moving away from Mike Malone, who plays, all the starters together almost all the time. Maybe now, and then also having a backup center, it would be interesting to see. Do you think that maybe he'll just end up being paired with Jokic? Is now that like they've finally got a backup center, they don't have to play Aaron Gordon, staggered with the bench lineup. So maybe he just plays even more with Jokic.
Gets
even more efficient.
They could. It's not a bad way to go about things, but you gotta have some good players on the court when Jokic is off. Like, I don't know. I like the idea of them being a little bit better balanced now. Hey, post up is a slow offensive style, and if you're trying to buy Jokic extra rest, having a slower offense when he's off, fewer possessions are played while Jokic is on the bench, that does have merit. But you know who else has merit? Number 52, Fred VanVleet. Dylan, why do you hate Fred? It's because his name's Fred?
I didn't think that I did. I feel like I've always been pretty high on Fred VanVleet. Maybe the biggest thing is that his efficiency took a massive drop last year. The 3-pointer, he seems to shoot threes well every other year.
So this is the year he's going to hit them.
Last year was a bad one, but my concern is maybe as he gets into his age, 32 season, that maybe the shooting is just on the decline. One of the worst, an incredibly bad rim finisher. He shot 48% at the rim last year, and also absolutely no float game at all either. And then the 3-point shot is falling. But still a good floor general, still really strong. So he can guard multiple positions, can run an offense if you ask him to. It may not be that good, but it'll be better than having some of these other guys do it. But getting older, the efficiency's fallen off, slowing down. Maybe he can't quite keep up with the fastest point guards anymore. But I think still a valuable role player. And also, people kind of forget that Houston had one of the worst cultures in the league. Looking from an off-court perspective, they had one of the worst cultures in the league. They brought in Fred VanVleet, and then everything was perfect. Everything, totally turned around. And so his veteran leadership, I feel like, is an intangible that we can credit him with as well.
Ime Udoka had nothing to do with that turnaround. It's all Fred VanVleet. That what you're trying to say?
Exactly.
So you put him at 62. I had him at 41. And the things that I really love about Fred VanVleet is on a smaller scale. While his offense can be hit or miss, is up and down, he was the stabilizer in Houston. He stabilized things. He was their clutch guy. They were 40-19 with him, and basically 500 without him. What did they finish the year? I just looked this up. They finished it at 52-30. So they won 12 games and lost 11 games without him. Like that, 500 and without basically winning in 2 out of every 3 games with him. I think that speaks for itself. And during some of his absences, they really struggled to close things late. They struggled to close things in the clutch. And, you're not going to have that same problem now that Durant's there. But if you want to critique some...
You could. I mean, Phoenix did. They had no point guard, and they couldn't, they couldn't close games. They were a terrible clutch team, even though they had Durant and Booker, because you do need a point guard to run things, and Fred VanVleet is very good at that.
Yeah. I guess my only worry, and it's not even really a worry, is Reed Shepherd a complete bust, or if not, is he going to start to cut into VanVleet's minutes a little bit? Take some of the shine, maybe in less close games. VanVleet's playing a little bit less. That's to try to take some of the burden off him. That does lower some of his per game numbers. But yeah, I thought VanVleet was closer to being an all-star than being an Aaron Gordon.
Interesting. I feel like he's like the Aaron Gordon of point guards. I feel like that's a pretty good comparison. One other thing that we can say about Fred as well, that we mentioned with the likes of Mikal Bridges, is that Fred can play big minutes, which does have a lot of value. Only 60 games last year, like you said, but 35 minutes, 37, 38 the previous seasons. There's a lot of value in having a guy that, your best players being able to play on the court a lot is valuable.
Yeah. All right. Number 53 for us is Draymond Green. And I feel like people look at the name recognition here and it's like, Draymond Green, third in DPOY. He won Hustle Player of the Year. Or he actually campaigned so much for DPOY that
he shouldn't have been top 5.
I completely forgot he did not win it. I made a video of what could Evan Mobley be in a couple of years? Or I mentioned what could Evan Mobley be? I'm like, maybe he can be the best defensive player of the year, the DPOY. And so I was like, Evan Mobley won DPOY last year. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that Draymond, with all of his campaigning, didn't win it. But
he's gonna be like he's gonna be like Donald Trump. He's gonna be like, actually, I did win DPOY, and if I just keep saying that I did, people will just agree with me. And so actually I was the defensive player of the year, and he'll just repeat it enough that people are like, yeah, defensive player of the year, reigning defensive player of the year, Draymond Green.
Yeah. I think the thing with Draymond, though, is when Draymond was a wrecking ball on defense, he provided a little bit of offensive value. These last few years, and this is why he is down in the 50s for us as opposed to 20s or near all-star contention, 30s, 32% from 3, 9 points, 5.6 assists, which for a power forward center is a high number of assists. But it's not secondary function of offense type of numbers. Curry generates things, and it used to be Draymond could be the outlet and create off of that. Now, I think teams have both kind of figured out what Draymond is. Draymond has started to slow down. How old is Dray now? Is he 33? Oh, he was 30.
He's this will be 35.
Yeah. I'm expecting even more regression on the offensive end, and if the defense, which has already slipped a bit, I no longer find him to be as quick defending guards, or as that continues to slow.
I think the bigger issue with his defense is that he just can't protect the rim anymore. He used to be able to be a legit center because with his long arms and his intelligence and his positioning, he was able to affect shots around the rim. But the last couple of years, he just can't really do that anymore.
Yeah. You know who also can't protect the rim, but is a really good defender? Jalen Suggs. And with Aaron not here, what do you say we sneak Suggs up a little bit?
Jalen Suggs has one of the best rim contest rates and effects of a guard. Like he contests more rim shots and has a greater effect on those rim shots than even some power forwards and really bad centers.
I did not know that. That's actually surprising and very impressive. I put him here because I felt like he is the most consistent part of Orlando's defense. Like Orlando has a lot of good defenders. Wendell Carter Jr. or Jonathan Isaac. They can throw a lot of defenders at you. Mo Wagner gets a lot of charges for a big man or puts his body in position to get a lot of charges. But like they don't have that absolute lockdown interior play 35 minutes a night a big man. And so their defense is kind of more outside in of we're going to put so much pressure on the guards that our rangy wings and our big men have a much easier time. And I think that's really helped them be just a super strong defense. And I'm half serious when I say that I think Suggs may be the best Magic.
Yeah, I mean, if evidence by absentia is a thing, then he, they won a lot of games when he played, and then they couldn't win when he was out. And I mean, he's probably now the best defensive point guard in the league. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah. Oh, are we calling Dort? What are we calling Dort? Is he a 2?
Certainly not a point guard.
Well, he defends the other team's point guard. The classic, like you are what you can defend.
Yeah.
He's like him and Caruso are doing more damage defending Steph Curry when he comes to town than Shea is.
But yeah, Jalen Suggs led the league among point guards in block percentage, percentage of opponent shots that were blocked. Makes plays in the passing lanes as well. Obviously, a good help defender as well as being one of the best on-ball defenders in the league.
Yeah.
The only thing that stops him being higher is that his offense is still kind of rough.
It did improve. It was up to 16 points per game last year after being was it 12 or 13 the prior year. So he's getting more looks.
And maybe last year was rough for them obviously with injury. And so maybe the year before, if his efficiency is more in that range, like he was a 40% 3-point shooter the year before, and last year was down at 30. Last year was down at 33. Like if he can get back to 40%, and he's still a really good finisher at the rim. Shot 75% at the rim last year, although on not a lot of attempts. Obviously, only played 35 games, but the previous year still at 68%. So still very good there. If he can finish well at the rim, make his threes, the on-ball stuff is the only thing that's holding him back from being more in sort of the 40s.
Efficiency should jump up just as he gets to play more with Paolo and Franz because he got hurt. Yeah, but Paolo gets hurt 5 games in the season, 4 games in the season. Franz goes down at like game 15, and like Suggs plays the first half of the year and then goes down with his injuries. So a lot of his time was playing without one or the other of Paolo or Franz. So I think if those guys are also healthier, you could see a more efficient Suggs just because the defense shifts around and is now more concerned about the primary options, which may decrease a little bit of Suggs' volume. But
if he's the fourth option and then like that's the amount of defensive attention that he's getting, then those shots become a lot easier to make, and hopefully he can get back, plus 60, true shooting.
Yeah. Someone else whose team always suffers a ton of injuries, Trey Murphy III, who I don't think I realized how much he was scoring until I started looking into this exercise. He was at 21 points per game this year. Like I kind of always think of him more as like the catch and shoot three guy. Last year was not at that great a percentage from three, just 36%, 8.3 attempts, but 21 points. It's 5 boards, 3.5 assists. What are you thinking we're going to see from Murray this next year, or Murphy this next year?
He's a guy that I'm pretty high on. So as we can probably see from the rankings, he is a very good movement shooter. Like there's you mentioned that he was you perceived him as a spot up shooter, which is the main way that he's getting his shots. But there's different kinds of spot up shooting. Like there's guys who stand in the corner, and there's guys who are moving and can come off screens and stay in motion. And those shots are a lot harder to make and a lot more valuable in terms of your spacing. The way that a defense has to adjust to that. And so he can take and make really tough threes. Last year was a lost year for him and for the Pelicans as a general, like just with so many injuries that really he almost never played with anything resembling a real NBA roster. And so his efficiency struggled. But if he's, he shot 42% from three, a couple seasons ago in his most healthy season, a really good rim finisher as well. A very good athlete, can push the ball in transition, great size on the wing, like he's not going to be a defensive liability whatsoever. Maybe getting through screens or chasing off ball, but I think certainly at least in neutral there, we'll make some plays, like we'll block some shots, we'll get some steals with all that length. And I think if there was one benefit that came from last season, which I mentioned was just a disaster for the Pelicans, is that he got more on-ball reps and did pretty good with that. Like his assist percentage is up, almost 50% over the previous season. And so now with more on-ball juice, as well as that incredible movement shooting, a great finisher at the rim, can push in transition, size on the wing, like that's, I think, a very valuable player.
Yeah. Can you name, out of the 25 Pelicans who played last season, can you name the 5 of them that played more games than Trey Murphy?
Let's go. Yves Missi.
Yep, 73 games.
Are we going to get crazy? Jose Alvarado.
56 games.
Okay. How about BJ Boston?
Boston, only 42 games.
They picked him up late. Can we get some Javonte Green action?
Javonte Green, 50 games, 18 starts.
God, who was playing for that freaking team? Is there a Antonio Reeves possibility?
Can I tell you how much I loved Antonio Reeves in the draft? He was like one of my sneaky, hey, go snag this guy in the second round. But no, he is only 44 games and 6 starts.
Only 6 starts for Antonio Reeves.
Yeah.
How embarrassing. CJ? Did CJ
McCollum, 56 and 56 starts.
Yep. DeJounte wouldn't have. He missed the whole season. Zion, I don't think so. Brandon Ingram pre-trade. Did he get up enough? Did he get up enough games pre-trade?
Brandon Ingram played 18 games all season.
Okay. Right, you might have to give it to me.
Jordan Hawkins.
Please don't be so obvious. Jordan Hawkins.
No.
The next Kobe.
No. Yep, next Kobe. And Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
Jeremiah Robinson Earl. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yep. So this guy was playing with Jeremiah Robinson Earl,
Yves Missi,
Antonio Reeves, Jordan Hawkins, BJ Boston, and he put up an efficient, what did you say, 20 points a game?
Yeah. The Pelicans started 20 different players. Here's last season. You can only bring 13 of them to a game. You only have 15 guys on your roster at a time. And they started.
The Pelicans started 20 different players.
Oof.
Yep.
I don't even think that's like a super high watermark for them.
One of my favorite moments for them last year was the double Brandon lineups where they had absolutely no scoring whatsoever when they still had Ingram, and then they also had BJ Boston, and those two would both just like play point guard and take every single shot. It was great. The two skinny Brandons out there just making everything happen, and by everything I mean not very much.
Don't worry, Brandon's before this pod is out. But number 56, Kyrie Irving, a man who Aaron ranked 31, I ranked 36. You left out of your top 100 entirely. And I know you already said it in our 1 through 25, but give the people your reasons again.
Here's a great article. Kyrie Irving tepid on return from knee injury by 26 playoffs. So Kyrie tore his ACL last season. That is a injury that not only keeps you out for quite a long time, but also is an injury that lingers, that has lasting effects. And so what I'm expecting from Kyrie this year is miss almost all the season or a lot of the season. Will come back after missing an extended period of time. You don't come back 100%. You've got to work your way back in. And so I expect him to not be very good when he does come back. Certainly not a top 50 player when he comes back. And then he's, a guy that's pretty injury prone in general. And it's a hard injury to come back from. So I expect him to not play a whole lot, not be super good when he is playing. Like if he wasn't injured, then I would have him in the 30s. But I don't expect much from him this season. And so his overall value, I think, is not a lot, given that he's going to miss a whole lot of time, and I don't expect him to be very good when he is playing.
And I do think that's a fair criticism. And one of the things that we've been trying to do with this list is less of a like, hey, on your best day, what are you? And more of what do we actually expect to get from you next season? And so I think maybe Aaron and I were a bit too high, and you balanced this out to a much better place where like we say, hey, what are you going to get from Kyrie this year versus what are you going to get from Trey Murphy this year? Maybe Trey Murphy is just going to give you a little bit more, or because he's going to actually start the year healthy. We'll see if he finishes it. Not a lot of Pelicans do. Their training staff highly suspect, but we can at least see.
Yeah, he plays an average of probably like 58 games a year, but that's probably more than what Kyrie is going to play.
Yeah. We'll see if Kyrie can be 80% of what we would expect by the playoffs. As if he is, that's going to have some value provided Dallas makes it.
And the brutal Western Conference.
Mm-hmm. And it's pretty brutal because you have to go up against guys like Lou Dort at least 3 to 4 times a year. Lou Dort is our Mr. 58, or not Mr. 57. And I'm surprised you're the low man. I feel like you love a Lou Dort.
Like
moonball threes in the playoffs, rugged defense. Let me beat you up. Was it because you saw what he was going to do to James Harden and you're like, I don't want any part of this?
Like Lou Dort does a very good job at what he does well, but that is quite limited. He still takes some bad shots. If he puts the ball on the floor, it's not going to go well for you. He shot 57% at the rim, which is abysmal. Like he cannot finish at the rim. No floater game whatsoever, but he does still get them up. He loves to shoot a pull-up mid-range, which he took about one every other game and actually made like half of them. So that's not maybe good for his confidence. But what he does really well is spot up threes and his signature pump fake relocate three. And then obviously he's one of the best on-ball defensive players in the league.
Yeah, I know you and I over the course of the season had many debates of who is actually more valuable defensively, Lou Dort or Alex Caruso. And I've long maintained the contingent that I would say Dort, in large part because Dort is asked to do it at a much higher volume. Dort is asked to defend the same guys is that Caruso is asked to defend, and he's just asked to do it a lot more. Which I see you've got Caruso one spot ahead of Dort, and I've got Dort 16 spots ahead of Caruso. Looks like Dylan is having some technical difficulties. Is here, but Dort did improve his 3-point shooting last year. Was at 41%, and so I do think that has quite a bit of value. I also do appreciate that while his shot selection isn't always the greatest, it is a low enough volume that I think you're allowed some of those. It's not quite like a Marcus Smart where,
Yeah.
hey, get him off the floor in the final 3 minutes because you don't know what he's going to try. Like
he does he does have a 12.5% usage in non-garbage time, and so like those bad shots that he's taken, there aren't quite a lot of them.
Yeah, and when you're winning 68 games, there's some room to mess around. But when it comes down to like crunch time, him in close games, he's not messing around.
Yeah, no, that's maybe a good point. And also with compared to earlier in his career, the shooting is now a credible enough threat that he is a guy that you can definitely have out there and feel comfortable in crunch time.
Yeah. Another guy I feel comfortable in crunch time offensively, not defensively, number 58, Austin Reeves, who averaged 20 points per game last season, 6 assists, 4.5 boards. He, in many ways, kind of drove the Lakers' offense for much of the season when LeBron was off the court. The fit with him and Luka was much cleaner than Luka and LeBron. I don't know that I love the fit between the three of them, but I think Reeves isn't going anywhere. I could be proven wrong about that tomorrow, but I'm very high on what the Reeves-Luka duo is going to do offensively this next year.
He's kind of a unique player. Like there aren't a lot of this kind of guy in the league, which is like a secondary ball handler, like 25 usage, ultra efficient scorer, good passer. Like there aren't a lot of those guys. Like the guys who have that skill set end up typically like shooting up the usage and then losing the efficiency. You almost feel like there's maybe a little bit that's untapped there because he is so ultra efficient. A great finisher at the rim, developed more and more of that mid-range game, which we saw work well for him in the playoffs as well. Maybe more so in the previous year. The 3-point shot at
comes and goes.
Yeah, but still in the high 30s, like definitely a credible threat. And like stepped into becoming more of a, before they got Luka, becoming more of a point guard. And they were a whole lot better on offense when he was on. There's a great difference between how efficient the Lakers offense was when he was on him and when he was off. And like defensively, like he's always going to be the weak point, but he's maybe not as weak as some of the other weak points. Does at least have size. Yeah, he'll make effort. He's got good size, and so like there is he's not a, maybe in the playoffs he's much more, he can be more of a target, but in the regular season, like 6'5" will like try like that gets you a lot of the way towards defensive viability.
Yeah. Now him and Luka on the court at the same time, is that going to be just too much of a defensive sieve? Him, Luka, and LeBron on the court, especially in like a March regular season game. We'll see how that all plays out. But
it kind of is a bit. Sorry, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, to speak to kind of some of his ability to play on or off ball, it's a little bit like Kyrie Irving, where Kyrie is such a phenomenal ball handler and such a great scorer. You would think that he has to be on the ball all the time, but he's actually very good at deferring and saying, no, you take the offense, and like I'll kind of pick and choose my spots. And then when it's his time, he like really can ramp up the pressure. Reeves's nickname is Hillbilly Kobe, but it could be Arkansas Irving.
Nice.
Felt good about that one. That's gonna be the sound bit.
You almost want him in like a different situation where, or
oh, absolutely.
Maybe that different situation is just that the Lakers like want to get rid of LeBron. They're like stealth, trying to force LeBron out. I mean, they didn't give him the contract that he wanted this offseason. He had to pick up his player option. He couldn't get another 1+1. And so like I'm sure they do have plans for life after LeBron. And Austin Reeves is probably better there. But in like this current situation, you wonder where he's would have more value as like a sixth man. In this, while they do have LeBron and Luka.
Current situation, probably, but I'm pretty sure he can opt out of his deal after this next year. And so the Lakers will be able to just shred his salaries. And I actually am kind of worried about, will he return this next season? Because I do think there's a lot of better situations. Like, if he could be in Minnesota and be that complimentary guard next to Anthony Edwards, where they still have a lot of good defense around him with McDaniels and Gobert, like some of his defensive flaws wouldn't be as noticeable. That I don't know what Minnesota could give up to get him. They certainly can't do it. They don't have picks. They don't have the right salaries. But if there was a way to just transplant him on to Minnesota, I think Minnesota becomes a real high title favorite. And maybe not over OKC, but like that'd be the ideal fit there.
Yeah, or the ideal fit is that LeBron leaves in free agency and they're able to sign a guy who complements Luka and Austin Reeves better in the following season.
Maybe a Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Exactly.
We can all dream.
Yep. I mean, we can all have nightmares.
What, you're telling me you don't want to see Giannis in Los Angeles?
No. That would be a very Lakers-esque though, to like, badly run a team, be mediocre for several seasons, and then sign Giannis due to no virtue of their own, and then also have him be post-prime too old, and then they go through like 5 more years of mediocrity because Giannis is too old to be like a really good player.
Let's see here. Anything interesting about Giannis on Hoops Hype? No. Apparently, Greece is doing quite well in Eurobasket. I need to watch some of that. I've been missing hoops with stakes, not known outcomes. That's the sad thing about doing my 50-point game series, is I end up watching games that I already know all of the scores to, when there's not too much excitement in them.
Yeah, let's get some Eurobasket. Maybe I should tune in as well just to see Bogey light it up.
Let's see. Giannis will be a free agent, or could be a free agent in 2027. So 2 years from now. That's
just when the Lakers have all of their cap space.
Exactly. Well, actually, we're going to have a lot of cap space next year. We're going to have a lot of cap space next year. Yeah. Maybe too much. Definitely too much. That's the thing. I always get nervous about having that much cap space. It's like, cool, we're going to go sign Mozgov and the Waldang again.
And give them do the Rob Pelinka special, which is give them a player option as well, that they then opt into because they suck, and you are now your roster. You can't build a good roster because you've got all these players opting into their player options that you gave them for no reason, and they suck.
Player options are the death of teams. That's when you know you've failed. We should go through teams' contracts every offseason and see how many player options they've given, and just been like, this team gave 4 player options. This team gave 0 points for that GM.
The 1+1 at the minimum is the Rob Pelinka special, and that's how you end up with Cam Reddish and Christian Wood and all these non-players that filled the entire Lakers roster.
Yeah. He's not a Laker, but he is from Los Angeles. Our next guy on the board is LaMelo Ball, coming in at 59. And you and I are pretty much lockstep. I had him 68th. If you had him 73. Aaron had him 43. And I messaged Aaron about this. I was like, listen, this is the largest differential of a guy that you got to guys that we have for the pod that you're missing. What the hell is going on? And Aaron's like, you guys don't see the vision. So I went and I looked. I went and I looked to see what is the vision for LaMelo Ball. And Dylan, LaMelo played 47 games last year, and the Charlotte Hornets won a total of 19 games. Can you guess how many of those 19 games, 19 victories, were won without LaMelo? So the 35 games he missed, how many victories did the Hornets get?
4.
3.
Close. How many games do you say they won?
They won 19 games. So with him, they were on pace for 27 wins.
Wow, that's very stunning. Their point differential when he was on the court was the equivalent of 32 wins, and they had a equivalent of 19 win swing, 9.5 points per 100 different when he was on versus off. So
I think where I'm at with LaMelo is I do believe there is something real there. I do believe there is real skill. I do believe that when he plays, the team is significantly better. And it's because he is a skillful player. He passes the ball. He pushes the tempo really well. My thing is just we haven't seen him be healthy in a very long time, if ever. And I don't entirely believe that these are all flukes. Like, you watch how he acts, you watch how he plays, you watch how he leaves games driving through red lights. Am I really going to bet that this player is taking the right precautions, stretching properly, doing all of the things he needs to be healthy for an 82-game season? And I'm just not betting it's happening this year.
Yeah, it's interesting given the sort of background that he had, that he was, really groomed to be a professional basketball player throughout like his entire teen life. But there are two sides of being a professional basketball player. There's, being the NBA star, which he was really groomed for, and there's like being a professional and like developing the right habits. And he seems to have, had a lot of experience from a very young age in one side of those, and maybe not so much, but playing in Australia, playing in Lithuania, like those, he didn't have a serious journey towards the NBA. His coaches in both of those situations, said he was basically awful off the court. Now he's in Charlotte, a terrible organization. You can imagine that there's a very poor locker room culture, and he's both a cause and a victim of that. And so like that manifests, as you say, in the games played. 47 last year, then 22, then 36, 51 in his rookie season. So he's had one season in his 5-year career where he played 75 games, and he was really good in that one season. If we're going to say LaMelo is going to be that player that he was for that one season, which is 4 years ago, then he can be like a very good point guard, an efficient scorer. He can push the offense. He's got, he's not going to be a good defender, but at least he's got size and he can make some plays in the passing lanes, and provide a lot of value. But what he is at the moment is ultra high usage, dominating the ball all the time, ultra high turnover, very low efficiency, maybe the worst defensive player in the league. I think worst defensive
at his minutes. I think we definitely say worst defensive player at his minutes. It's like more minutes per game. There are worse players that just don't see the court. But if you're talking about guys that play 30 minutes a night, his offense is gifted enough that like he could be out there there for that much time, but his defense is bad enough that like amongst other guys who play that.
I don't even know if you could say that his offense is that great anymore, but like his playmaking is very good, but he's hasn't shown any improvement as a finisher throughout his career. He's consistently been one of the worst finishers at the rim in the league. The float game, has come along a little bit. He doesn't take too many bad mid ranges, although he's increased that last season. A crisp 38% on those, so another inefficient shot that he was getting up. And then the 3-pointer has been on the decline steadily, 40%, 38%, 36%, 34%. Like, he takes a lot of bad shots. They don't go in. He's an ultra inefficient scorer who is still a very gifted passer and a guy who the numbers say the offense is a lot better when he's in. But I think a big thing that people don't maybe consider enough when they look at, say, on-off numbers, which is that sort of which is brought up by NBA fans once they reach that sort of slightly above casual basis. You know, when you really start to get into statistics, and you can look at LaMelo and say, well, last year they were 11 points better on offense when he was in, and the year before that they were 5 points better when he was in, and the year before that they were 6 points better when he was in. So like, this guy is driving, is a clear offensive difference maker. But I think the thing that you've got to consider is, what is the ceiling that he's raising them up to? And it's 114 offensive rating, 114 offensive rating, 113 offensive rating. So he's raising your floor to being still bad on offense. And so there will be, I think, a lot of NBA fans that would be outraged that we've got LaMelo Ball below the likes of Fred VanVleet or Aaron Gordon because of his theoretical ability as a playmaker. But other than one season 4 years ago, he's never been part of a good offense. He's never been an efficient scorer. And he's never played serious basketball except for 1 year 4 years ago.
I do want to circle back when you said that he was raised to be an NBA player. I do think there's a big difference. I mean, raised to be an NBA player by NBA players. Like, you look at the guys whose dads were NBA players and how they handle their business, is how they behave. I mean, even someone like Tim Hardaway Jr., who like is maybe not the most professional, most pros pro, he has kind of at least a better level of decorum than you see from LaMelo. There are not guys questioning his work ethic. They're questioning some of his shot selection, but like, it's a difference. You have guys like Curry, whereas LaMelo is being raised to be in the NBA by a guy who dreams of being an NBA, who envisions stardom. Like, it's a very different concept.
If you gave Bronny LaMelo's size and talent, like, that's an all NBA player.
Bronny's mentality. I was just like, well, yeah, if you gave a lot of guys if you give him the size and the talent.
Which is to say the inverse of what you're saying. If you gave LaMelo Bronny's mentality, or even freaking Cole Anthony, like, but alas.
Yeah. All right. After that, we've got a guy that you are very high on, Miles Turner. You've got him 44th on your individual award. I've got him 63rd on mine. Aaron's the low man at 80. Tell me why Turner should be higher than our 60th best player.
We just saw two teams get to the NBA Finals with a common theme, which is having a center who can defend the rim and shoot threes. I don't think it's a coincidence that those were the two teams that were there. I think there's an immense value in having that skill set. And Miles Turner is one of the best at his position at that 3-and-D center skill set. The ability to protect the rim, the ability to hit spot-up threes, but he's also transcended that. He does have the versatility to play multiple defensive schemes. He took a step forward over the last couple seasons as a finisher, as a roll man, as a screen setter, doing the regular center stuff, in addition to being able to space the floor and hit threes. And so I think there's just so much value having that skill set at that position.
How did you start that? You said two teams made the finals with what? A similar concept? A similar. What was your
A similar
phrasing?
concept of yeah, a similar concept of having
Was the similar
the ability.
concept swindling Western Conference teams out of their best player? I'm just saying.
Hmm.
Indiana swindle Sacramento swindling, I should say, bad front offices out of their best player. The
Bad
Thunder
front offices.
bad front offices. Because OKC
Okay,
swindles away Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, the league MVP, for Paul George. They're also acquiring a buttload of picks, building their entire franchise off of the Clippers' misery. Meanwhile, Indiana swindles away Tyrese Halliburton for short-term gains for Sacramento. Yeah, it's fun to have a beam, even enjoy it for a year, but are they in the finals? No. I think that's really the blueprint to swindle a desperate Western Conference team, a team desperate for relevance again.
certainly having a top 10 offensive player is a big part of why they were able to make the finals.
Okay.
But there are a lot of similarly talented offensive creators who didn't get to the NBA finals, who didn't get past the second round, who didn't get past the first round because they didn't have that complementary skill set. And being able to be a positive defender and a positive offensive player, especially with being able to provide floor spacing at the center position, is just so incredibly valuable.
And I do have Turner. Well, I guess I actually have him a little bit lower than what this average reached out to. But I do really like what Turner brings. He's a very nice complementary piece. I think any team would be happy to have a Miles Turner, or if we're doing a vacuum test or a like how many teams does he fit on in the league? He fits on so many teams in so many different scenarios that his value as an individual supersedes his situation, and because it helps everyone or helps every situation.
Mm-hmm. If yeah,
That's all I got. We're an hour in, and do you remember when you said pre-pod? Hey, do you want to try to aim for the 100 players or the 50 players we have linked? How you feel about that thought?
well, I part of that I said was that we wouldn't talk about the guys that we're mostly in agreement on, and so if we were going for 50 players, I wouldn't have spent 5 minutes talking about how much LaMelo Ball sucks because we're in agreement.
Fair enough. Well, a player that we are in large disagreement on, number 61, Jaden McDaniels. You've got him 57th. I've got him 77th. Aaron is closer to you. Tell me, you believe in his offense? Because I know we're both fans of his defense.
Yeah, one of the best defensive players in the league, um, who can do a little bit with the ball more than maybe your average, 3-and-D center. Sorry, 3-and-D wing. And then like the 3-pointer has been streaky for him.
Mm-hmm.
A couple
Mm-hmm.
seasons ago, he hit 40%. Last season, it was only 33%. But he's expanded his ability to do more within the arc. Like I've got his shooting splits up in front of me. Played every single game last season, by the way, 32 minutes, 82 games. Incredible value in that. The mid-range shot took 50 of them, made almost 50%. The floater made an above average percentage on those, getting downhill, attacking a closeout, getting almost all the way to the rim. When there was another big man standing at the rim, was able to get that floater off and hit it in above average rate. It was able to finish over 70% throughout the last few years at the rim. Can push the ball in transition, a good enough handle to attack a closeout or to run in transition. I think he's not an offensive zero the way that some other 3-and-D forwards are, and is one of the best defenders in the league.
You know what's funny is I remember doing the draft prep for him. And we did a couple of mocks that year. You and I did one. As you did the lottery, I want to say, or at least the second one right before the draft, on the old blog, the Temple Entertainment and Media blog. And when I had done the first mock in January, he was a consensus top 10 pick and was billed as like a Kevin Durant, just an absolute scorer, a knockdown guy, and it was like, yeah, he's really skinny. We'll see if he can play defense in the league. And now he's completely shifted to being a defensive player. The same thing with Jalen Well out of Memphis. This was the pre-draft process was, well, he can score, but like, let's see if he can play any sort of defense in the league. And now both these guys are making their bread and butter defensively, but have lost their offense.
Do you know the funniest example of that is a guy that I was really high on when he was pre-draft, who was drawing Kevin Durant comparisons, great size, a guy that could create his own shot, very hard to stop in the mid-range. You're gonna lose your mind when you hear this. A guy who I thought could be the next Kevin Durant was Kevon Looney. Those were the comparisons he was getting.
It's so funny.
Before he went to UCLA, I was like, oh my God, this guy's like 7 foot. He's got this handle. He can pull up and hit mid-ranges. And then he comes to the NBA and he does absolutely nothing on offense, but becomes a really, really good defensive player. Like
it's so funny the way players grow and develop. And like the draft is kind of a crapshoot. I've been doing a little series on TikTok for like draft ranges. And like, hey, you know, you got this pick. What's the best 5 players and the worst 5 players that's produced? And like, even the number 1 overall pick, the surest, safest thing. We've had 5 busts in the last 30 years. Like, it's so funny to see how guys develop in the draft. But I don't have a lie about McDaniels. I'm much lower on his offense. I do think that streakiness is a problem. I don't really expect it to change much. I would love to see Minnesota kind of use him in more small ball lineups at the 4. I think that could be an interesting look to really improve his offense.
They've probably got to this year, based on where their rosters ended up.
I mean, they still have Gobert, Naz Reid, and Julius Randle. And I would imagine you always keep 2 of those 3 on the court.
Yeah, no, maybe you're right. They do still have.
I mean, Luka Garza leaving them, it hurts their depth at center, but is it going to make that big of a difference?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Maybe. Could we see a situation where they actually have to go smaller and he ends up playing like some 2? Because like they've got all these wings all these guards really who may or may not be good. And 47-year-old Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, Leonard Miller, Jalen Clark. Like if none of these guys work out, then like you've got to play 5 guys at once.
I don't know how much you ever really want to play all 3 of Naz, Randall, and Gobert. I think you always, it's like it's always at least 2 in my mind, but not as much as 3.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
Like, and there's Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards. Like, even if some of the other guys don't do as much, like you're probably not playing them down. But
yeah, no, you're probably right. He probably plays strictly at the 3 with their lack of 3s and their plethora of 4s.
Yeah. Our next guy, 62, Kristaps Porzingis. I'm the extremely low man. I am at 80th, and I will say that is purely a health standpoint. Of he has been injury prone pretty much his whole career. We have not seen him play that many healthy seasons. But last year, dear God, some of the stuff when he played, and I'm not talking playing through the illness. You know, he's 20 points per game, 7 in rebounds, efficient 3-point shooting, 41%, and like a really high value post player. Like, I don't know what Atlanta's going to do with him, but
not to mention a top 5 defensive player in the league when he's on the court. Like he's gonna play between 40 and 60 games. Like that's just a reality of who he is at this point. But like you said, he's going to be an elite rim protector when he's on the floor, and also a much more skilled offensive player than just about any other. The likes of your, say Jared Allen kind of elite defensive big man.
And it's crazy to think about how good Atlanta could be this next year, because there's a lot of flaws with Trae Young that both of us find, but with Dyson Daniels, with Jalen Johnson, with Kristaps Porzingis, you can put together a really strong defense around Trae. Kristaps anchoring that, Onyeka Okongwu, who either playing a little bit more at the 4 or coming off the bench, like they have a lot of defensive pieces to make this work.
And Kristaps' ability to space the floor lets Okongwu, to be fair, has taken steps forward as a shooter as well, but Kristaps' ability to play the 4 lets you put more maybe offensively limited guys at the 4 because of his ability to shoot threes.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta was playing Mohamed Gay with Onyeka Okongwu last season to try to have a little bit more floor spacing. Mo Gay, which he himself was spacing decently well and is another defender. Like, it's almost a shame that there isn't like a bruising big center. Like, if we were guaranteed a healthy Embiid season, I'd be like, man, Atlanta has like really bulked up on the centers to try to take away an Embiid, or like throw lots of looks at him. If this was back in the Shaq day where you needed to have 5 centers to go out and foul him, and Matana's like, well, yeah, they can. That's 6 fouls with Kristaps, 6 with Okongwu, 6 with Mo Gay. You can put Jalen Johnson on for like there. You have a platoon of guys where you're still happy.
I mean, not just that, but I feel like there is a modern trend towards more 2 big lineups. There is a better understanding about the value of a big man, whereas for a long time a lot of teams would just go for a replacement level big, because that standard is so high there. But I feel like the big man, because of the defensive ability that you get by playing 48 minutes of good centers, and sometimes even more by playing 2 of them at once if they have the offensive skill. There is sort of, I think, becoming more of that. And so having Okongwu and Porzingis, I think is a big positive. And look, if Kristaps Porzingis was going to play 69 games, he'd be a top 30 player probably. He's probably going to play 49 games, and so that drops him down a bit.
Hey, you can find the podcast if you want to scroll way back in our catalog, where I declare Kristaps Porzingis a better under 24-year-old player than Karl Anthony Towns. So minimum of 5 years ago. We'll see how long ago that was, but I'm very high on Kristaps if he can be healthy.
Look, if he was healthy, you'd be 100% right.
Yeah. Another player who I would love if he's healthy, and who would be cool, if there was a way Atlanta could make this guy be so hype. Number 63, Herb Jones, played just 20 games last year, but I mean, not on Herb, ultimate, just elite defensive player. I think we're kind of underrating him a little bit just because of the absences. I know you're equally high, so maybe we can go quick on him, but talk to me about your Herb Jones. Let's love.
Like, he missed a lot of games last season. That hasn't really been the trend throughout his career. He's played pretty big minutes and fairly big game totals, multiple seasons in the high 70s. And so I don't think he's an injury-prone player. Last season also we talked about for the Pelicans was a disaster. So in his 20 games, I'm not taking a lot away from that, given that he was playing with Antonio Reeves and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. But in the season before, where he played 76 games, his scoring efficiency was coming around to a really high level, shot over 40% from 3. Not a high volume, not a high difficulty, but there is still a lot of value in that. A good finisher at the rim, and one of the best defensive players in the league. For I wish I had the foresight to do this, but for a lot of those players you brought up, how good their team was with them versus how good they were without them, in terms of wins. The Pelicans just where their season really ended was when Herb Jones became hurt. Like DeJounte Murray, they could survive. Zion, they could survive. As soon as Herb went down, it's all over.
I hate to tell you this. They won by Herb last year.
They what, sorry?
They only won 5 games with Herb last year. They were 5-15 with him.
And what were they without him?
Questions. Him were 16 and they were 21-61 on the year. So 15 losses is with him would be 46 losses without him. They're not good. And I think that's one of the things about a lot of these bad teams is they're not good. Like, I was texting Aaron about LaMelo. It was like, man, they went 3-32 without him. Like, were they going to be with him? And it's like, oh no, there's still just 27 win pace with him. Like, yeah, it's a lot better with him. It's still not good. But Herb only played 20 games, and so much of the Pelicans missed so many other games. So
disaster of a season. It still had an almost even net rating when Herb was in negative 0.2, which is the equivalent of a 500 team. So they were playing 500 ball when Herb was playing. Remember, that's with Antonio Reeves and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Plus 11.7 on off for Herb.
Hell yeah, Herb. All right. Who's next? Oh, your guy that you hate. Mr. Norman Powell, 64. I have him 61. And Aaron has him 57. And you're 79. Is this just an anti-her? What's going on?
It's I think just being somewhat lower on the value of this archetype of player, which is like a solid-ish third option who can't defend and can't play make. Like a really efficient scorer when he's your third option who isn't going to do a whole lot with the ball other than attack a closeout, and is also not a good defensive player. Like this is a very good sixth man, or could provide value as a starter if you've got multiple other really good offensive players.
Listen, hear me out, because I'm starting to see the vision. Miami is making the playoffs next year, not play-in. They're exceeding the play-in. It will be a top 6 seed behind the combined offensive prowesses of Tyler Hero, Herb Jones, Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo. I think that foursome, I'm not sure who you put at 5th. I think the hope is Cale Ware is the guy. The thing would be if Jovic is still like the best option there, but I think Powell's scoring, his shooting, his attacking off the drive has a lot of value to Miami. You could say other places maybe not so much, but I think he's in the right situation to have another really good year. And let's be honest, I know we're talking about a guy that we've got ranked 64th here. I'm not ruling out an all-star or not in the East. You get some injuries to some of the guys we've got ranked ahead of him. LaMelo's definitely going to be injured, and Embiid's definitely going to be injured. Maybe it's an alternate, but let's just see what happens. We could be looking at a Norm Powell all-stars.
I mean, that seems plausible. There are guys that I ranked below this who have been all-stars. or an all-star.
Well, sure, but we're not talking about like, oh yeah, Zach LaVine was an all-star. He's guy who's coming up in a bit. Up next we have DeMar DeRozan, who was an all-star. But I'm talking next year could be an all-star or get all-star consideration.
if the Kings were in the East, then Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan could be all-stars as well.
Yeah, I feel bad doing 2 Kings, but all right, let's do up next 65.
I know
DeMar
Aaron's not here
DeRozan.
to defend himself.
I guess Aaron and I were pretty close. It was in lockstep with DeMar. I don't know. He's an efficient scorer. That's he's a scorer. He'll put up buckets.
He's a mildly efficient scorer.
Yeah, slightly below league average at a fairly high volume. 22 points per game. I keep trying to remind myself that 22 points in today's day and age doesn't mean the thing as it did like when I was getting into basketball in the early 2000s. But he will put up buckets, he will play big minutes, and your team will be in the 35 to 44 win range with him playing that way. Great. Any more DeMar DeRozan talk?
If you need someone to elevate you to the play-in, he's your guy. If you need someone to win a championship, maybe look elsewhere.
Yeah. The next two guys, we are in absolute lockstep on. And Kobe White and Brandon Miller. Which one do you want? Kobe is next.
Yeah.
Wins out the averages.
We can probably do like 30 seconds on these guys at this point. Like, they're pretty known commodity. Like, Kobe's a pretty decent scorer at this point. A pretty decent passer. Probably a better defender than most people realize. Like, he's got pretty good size. Like, he's a solid. Exactly. That adds extra height. Like, he's a pretty solid player.
I pulled up the stats while you were giving me that 30 seconds for pre and post All-Star splits, because post All-Star splits, when the Bulls went on their run, I knew it was significantly better. Pre All-Star, it was 18 points per game. Post All-Star is 24, so a 6-point jump. And really doesn't come from that much change in volume. It comes from a huge efficiency jump, going from 58% true shooting to 63% true shooting. I don't know that that's sustainable. I do think, looking back on the Bulls' run last year, there was a lot of other teams tanking. It was just kind of the right moment for the surge. Now, they do get some impressive wins, but winning breeds confidence, breeds kind of the ability to outperform expectations. And so I don't fully want to say that like what we saw at the end of last year is a complete blip, an anomaly. We'll never see it again. But I think the truest Kobe White is going to be somewhere between what we saw at the end of last year and we saw for the first 3-4 months. Like, his averages on the year are 20.
Yeah. And I mean, the first half of a season is probably, sort of more indicative of a player's true ability, because that's when every team is still trying. And the second half, the bad teams start to tank, good teams start to rest, there's injuries. Like, the second half is less reflective of maybe the true state of the league than the first half is.
Have you ever talked with an economist over like drinks and like start telling jokes with economists?
Are you going to bring up the idea of everything comes back to the average? There's highs and lows, and everything stays the same on average.
No, there's I've got some friends who are economists, and they have a joke about how economists have predicted 8 of the last 4 recessions, and it's this idea that like they're seeing all the indicators and they're like, oh, we're gonna have recession, and then it doesn't happen. I feel like that's what looking at post All-Star splits does. Is you're like, oh my God, this guy could break out if all what he does is play this year like he ended last year. And to be fair, sometimes it's right. Like, that's how I saw Jalen Johnson a year before, or he entered like the mainstream lexicon. When you guys were like, who is this guy? He averaged 14 minutes. I was like, no. Trust me, post All-Star, he was on to something. It's how Nico got Miles Bridges the year before he kind of broke out, and 2 years before learned how terrible of a human being he was. But like, sometimes it does really pay off I'm just not sure that Kobe White is the guy that's going to pay off for.
But yeah, but I think he's definitely a good player.
Yeah.
Plays a lot of games too. Doesn't really get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Good passer, efficient scorer, size at the position. Like he's a guy that could contribute to,
If the stock has been bought, don't sell it. I'm just saying, at this point, the value of that stock is probably a little bit high, and maybe don't buy in. 67, Brandon Miller. Actually, both of us were 100% tied, lockstep with him.
Incredible.
And lockstep having him over LaMelo, because I do think, as wild as it is, the future of Charlotte is a Brandon Miller-led team. That's where I'm at. Turn over the franchise to him, which is a wild thing to say after his own tumultuous off-the-court activities, but you got a big wing that scores and shoots, and hey, I don't care that he's going to miss 17 threes or whatever the insane number was that he missed in one game. Keep putting them up, young blood. Keep going for it.
Keep shooting, Trevor Ariza.
Yeah.
Ironically, even though we somehow managed to both rank this guy the exact same number, which is very improbable as we get deeper and deeper into this, we almost did it for different reasons. Where you're saying like this guy has the potential to, be the centerpiece of a good team, whereas I'm thinking, get this guy out of here and put him on a good team where he's the fourth best player, and then his size and his shot creation on the wing, his ability to shoot threes and make some plays defensively is very valuable to an actual good team.
Yeah, the thing is also he is young. We only have 3 players younger than him, higher than him, and that's Victor Wembanyama, Paolo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren. Like those are the only guys who are 23 or younger next season, or will be 23 or younger next season that are above him. So I'm like, let's get him healthy. He only did 27 games this year, but if he's healthy, I think he provides a lot of value. Let's see what happens. Let's see where the growth goes. After Brandon Ingram, and we have Josh Hart. Just rock solid. I do actually. I kind of want to lower. I went lower on him because I do think Hart is going to get squeezed a bit in New York. I think that there is both a need for someone who provides more offensive firepower or more spacing in firepower, and like a Duke McBride, and a need for more actual like size and rim protection. Like Josh rebounds the ball incredibly well for someone his size, but like we saw in the playoffs, they went with the 2 big lineup. I think there's 2 ways that Hart gets squeezed, and I don't think there's a lot of ways for Hart to get more minutes. And so I think, barring Mikal Bridges' injury and then Tibbs falling back in love with playing Josh Hart 45 minutes a night, I think Hart probably starts fewer games and probably plays a lot fewer minutes and ends up maybe a little bit less impactful in New York.
Yeah, but I mean, he played 77 games and 38 minutes a game last season, and so you can play fewer minutes and still.
That's fair. That's
still
fair.
Gets a pretty
There's
high
a lot of room.
Like maybe he's not playing 3,000 minutes a season, but maybe he's still playing 2,000 minutes, and like there's still you can still make a lot of value in 2,000 minutes. Making plays defensively, being impossible to keep off the glass on either end of the floor. Ability to handle the ball to a degree, a great cutter, will hit a shot if you leave him wide open, a good finisher at the rim, will grab offensive rebounds, which is very valuable as well, and probably a good overall guy for not only for your locker room, but just guys with energy. I think good to have on the floor. That it is, it does have a sort of a knock-on effect to your other players.
Yeah, the only thing that you didn't mention in there, or that I love about Josh Hart, is just the surprisingly high IQ. Like
Mm.
He doesn't get those boards because he has this insane scanner, insane jumping ability. He has really good intuition on where it's going to go. He makes those cuts really smart because he reads the floor well. He knows when things are going to open up, and like kind of opposed to a PJ Tucker level of defender or a guy that is a lot of heart, a lot of hustle, which Josh Hart has, but he also has a headiness to him and a really solid understanding of the game. So just really like Josh.
Mm.
Number 69, Paul George. This is an Aaron. Aaron was very low on PG. I don't know. You have more PG experience than I do. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean it's again we're talking about like in terms of Kobe White's decent first half and then very good second half, and then the truth being probably somewhere in between. Paul George's 74 games for the Clippers with very high usage and incredible efficiency and solid defense, and then his 41 games with the Sixers, where he was one of the worst offensive players in the league and also didn't play any defense. The truth I'm expecting is probably somewhere in between those two, where he'll play, 60 games and he'll take his pull-up mid-ranges, which will affect his efficiency, but he's still going to be a valuable offensive player. And still has size on the wing. There is the possibility, though, at 35 that maybe last year wasn't a blip and this is just a fall off, which does happen to players. Like it's not always a step by step downwards. Sometimes you're good one year and then you're done. And that could be this for Paul George. I suspect probably not. I think there's still probably a valuable player in there as a guy who can create some shots. Still a good passer for his position. That's one thing that he's turned himself into as quite a good passer. Even last season, where he could not put the ball in the basket, he was still able to find his teammates for good shots. And like probably is done being a all defensive level of player, but does still have size and will make some plays occasionally.
I do think also Philly came to the realization quite quickly in last season that this is not their year. And since it is not their year, the best thing for them to do is to tank away the season and try to keep the pick. And it worked. They got VJ Edgecombe. Now the results of this upcoming season don't really matter as much, or like, not don't matter as much, but there's not like a, hey, we have to pivot super hard to keep our pick. Maybe half of Paul George's bad play was an apathy. No one has called Paul George like the most invested star, the guy that like lives, breathes basketball, will die on the court, will give it his all every game. I mean, we kind of did see him die on the court when his leg snapped in that USA versus USA scrimmage. That was a rough moment, but I'm hesitant to go much higher with that age curve, but I do think you're right. We're going to see something in between.
How about this for precedent? The 21-22 season, Paul George played 31 games, incredibly inefficient scoring, high usage, overall just a bad player, and then bounced back for 22-23, played 56 games. The scoring was good. The playmaking was at a sort of an all-time level, and started playing a little bit of defense again. Like if he can have 22-23, even if he's not at 23-24 where he was, which was ultra high usage, ultra high efficiency, good defense. If it's more in the 22-23 range where he's scoring efficiently, he's still taking too many goddamn mid-range jump shots that plummet his efficiency, but if it's more in the 22-23 than it is 23-24, that's still a good player.
Yeah. Value. Who else is going to have value? The highest Portland Trailblazer that we have ranked, the first Trailblazer off the board, Toumani Camara, who is going to be our number 70th player. Or Dylan, you are the high man with him ranked at 52. You want to start us off?
I mean, another one of these guys, like what one of the best defensive players in the league, makes plays defensively, makes plays on the glass on both ends, and then last season took steps as an offensive player, both with the ball and in terms of just knocking down his threes. If he continues to head in that trajectory where his, he got to the, rim at a much higher rate last year, and took a lot more threes. And made a lot more threes. If he continues to develop some of that ball handling and playmaking that he kind of showed some signs of last season, and then just continues to be one of the most sort of disruptive defensive players in the NBA. I think that's a very valuable player.
I think it does have a lot of value. I did not have him as the most valuable Blazer. I did go with Denny Avdia, but that's within my concept of like a team concept. Avdia is going to be the lead guy. He is going to draw the defense's attention. He is going to be the guy that Portland plays through. Kamara, in a vacuum, helps every team, and he defends. Really, they list him as a shooting guard or during lineup introductions, and I feel like he defends 2s through 4s pretty well, and maybe not your like 2 big lineups where one of those is a 4, but you're more like LeBron is playing the 4 type of deals.
Or Denny Avdia is playing the 4.
Yeah, which is very valuable. He defends a valuable set of guys for a wing defender. He can even defend in ones. Like he is a guy that will draw the assignment of Steph Curry one night and LeBron James the next night, and then like, yeah, I mean, he's not defending centers as much, but every now and then, like, hey, if you're bouncing between Curry and Giannis, that's a lot of defensive range. I'm a little bit lower on the offense. He is also entering his age 25 season, which guys do tend to progress to 27. But I think people think of him as younger and like,
yeah, because he was so old when he came into the league.
Yeah.
Like, this is only his third season. You're like, oh my god, it's his third season. He's only 22. It's like, no, he's 25.
Yeah, I think we're thinking of him as a much younger prospect and much more likely to grow up and continue to develop. And I don't think that is quite as likely. So, yeah, I think this is a really good spot for him. I did also just want to go back because I was starting to question, was Brandon Miller the youngest, or were there only 3 guys younger? Because I was like, what about Amen Thompson? And I was like, Thompson has got to be younger. But looking back through our ages, Thompson was also 22, and so was Şengün. So there were 5 players younger, or the same age or younger than Brandon Miller. But number 71 for us, Isaiah Hartenstein. Aaron's way too high. He has him 55. I got him 83. You got him 70. Hartenstein is a nice player. I love his connective tissue, his ability to set the screen, catch, and then make the next pass. But in my mind, that's kind of where Hartenstein peaks out of, like, he helps make good things a bit better, but he is not generating anything.
He's almost like a slight discount Zubats in terms of the things that he does well. Where like you can give him the ball, this sort of top of the key, and you can run off ball stuff, and he's gonna find he's gonna make the right read. He's gonna defend the rim at a pretty high rate and secure the defensive glass. And then we talked about Zubats as like sneakily the best hook shot guy in the NBA and like an elite post scorer. Hardenstein's got that floater that he shoots from like 10 feet out that always goes in. And so like Zubats light, a good rim protector, good defensive rebounder. You can give him the ball and he's going to make right reads, which is, I think, very useful. And then does have at least one go-to shot that he can make.
Also, at this point, I just want to point out that we have had 5 Oklahoma City Thunder in the top 75 for this next season. In case anybody's wondering who is going to be our preseason pick for title contention, probably OKC again. And yeah.
It'd be interesting. We should run the formula for once we get to the next episode, when we round out the top 100 and see which teams actually do have the most top 100 players.
OKC. OKC.
I mean, other than OKC, like which teams have the most?
Yes, we should do that. We should also try to figure out some value adjustment system, because I like a lot of the Portland guys. Like Portland's going to end up with 4 guys on this list.
Yeah. Portland have got like, maybe even 5 players that are like the 70 through 110 best player in the NBA.
Yes. Yeah. So it just, like Chicago's going to have 3 guys. They're just not. They just don't have any of them. Okay, Chicago's going to have 2 guys. I was looking at Giddey's coming up in a little bit. We just did White, and so I was like, there's a couple guys.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Toronto's going to have 3, but we got to have some, not just numbers, but also like value system.
Yeah.
All right. Next guy up, our biggest differential of the day. Hit 31 spots between you and I. I've got Dyson Daniels at 60. You got him at 91. Dylan, you like defensive players. I know he doesn't do your defense because he gets steals, and that doesn't lower opponent's field goal percentage. Because you have to attempt a shot to actually like have a field goal percentage. But if you just tack on 3 more misses to how many field goal attempts he defends, just raise the attempts. Trust me, it's better.
You can also give him credit for blocking shots. He has a very high block rate for his position.
You can give him credit for making the Hawks a competent defense with Trae Young out there, and the 2 of them being able to be a competent defensive backcourt. Dyson Daniels, and as I went back and checked through the ages, everyone I listed outside of Victor Wembanyama had their age 22 season last year. Daniels is age 21. And Dylan, I don't know if you know this, but growth in NBA players is 100% consistent. It's why can't I think of the right word right now? It's not literal.
It's linear.
Linear. God, how strong did I make that whiskey lemonade? Because everyone's wondering what I was drinking. 100% linear. So last year he averaged 14.1 points per game. The prior year was 6 points per game. So we're looking at another 8-point improvement. He's going to be averaging 22 this year. Last year, 3 steals a game. The year prior, 1.4. He's going to average 4.5 steals per game this year.
Not only that, but the previous year, 20 minutes a game. Last year, 34 minutes a game. He's going to play the entire game next year. He's going to play 48 minutes.
Whoa. His minutes per game only went up by 12. He's going to play a nice, cool 46 minutes a night. Come on.
He's going to be LeBron in the 2018 playoffs.
Okay, but even if we do talk about things like per 36, he went from 9.5 points to 15 points. He went from 2.3 steals to 3.2 steals. His efficiency, it went up. 3-point percentage went from 31 to 34%. Like, there is real improvement, and he was just 21 years old. He'll be 22 this year.
Yeah, then maybe I'd do him a bit too low. My concerns, the reason I have him lower than, say, like the likes of Tumani Kamara, who we just talked about, or Herb Jones, who I had a lot higher, for example. Sort of 2 things. Firstly, I think he is a worse offensive player than those guys. Yes, he is, like, in theory, a better ball handler, but like he actually doesn't generate a lot for his teammates, and he's a very inefficient scorer. And so I think he's still like a strongly negative offensive player. And then the other thing is that I think this type of defense is less valuable at the guard position if you're not also a capable offensive player, because it limits the kind of guys that you can put around you. Like if you're at the guard spot and you're lacking this much in offense, then you've got to get it from
Mhm.
other positions. I think a defensive wing who doesn't give you a lot, or a defensive forward who doesn't give you a lot offensively, you can still play really good offensive players at the guard spot. And so, from a team building perspective, I think he limits you a bit more than, say, like Tamani Kamara or Jalen Johnson or Herb Jones or some of these other guys that had a lot higher. And then his offense is also at a lower level than those guys are, from an efficiency perspective. Even if he is maybe doing a little bit more self-created stuff than the likes of some of those other guys.
Yeah. You can play with one non-shooter on the floor, and most teams their non-shooter is a big man or a forward. It's more of a struggle if you're a non-shooter or you're not as good shooter. Is in essence you're two. You're shooting guard. He should probably be a shooter, but I'm just saying he went from 31 to 34. Linear progression means he'll be 37 next year. Just you wait.
And just looking at cleaning the glass has points per shot attempt, points per non-garbage time shot attempt. He went from 105 to 109, so he went from 35th percentile for combo guards to 48th percentile. So next year he's actually going to
Hey,
be above average in terms of scoring
hey,
efficiency as well with the linear progression.
hey! I'm just saying.
Actually, if we look at the year before, we can actually go one step further. Because we got 103, 105, 109. Nate, that's a very simple what's the word I'm looking for here?
Exponential growth.
Exponential growth. And so he went from 2 points of improvement to 4 points. So he's actually going to go up by 8 points of improvement in terms of his shot efficiency to 17 points per shot attempt, which if I bring up the rankings, you'll be interested to know this, as we're almost 2 hours into this podcast. You'll be very interested to know that is good. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say, like, that is where Austin Reeves is, or like...
I was gonna do it, but when I clicked on the full rankings thing, it takes me to all positions, and I would have had to then go and apply a filter to take it back to just combo guards, and so it's one step further.
All right. Let's bang out the next couple of guys. Is we've got number 73 and 74, Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine. Ingram above LaVine. You've got him back to back. I've got Ingram a bit higher. You have made your Ingram feelings known on this pod about how his lack of playmaking, his ball dominance, driving, scoring. How many Pelicans games were you watching? You have some very strong Pelicans takes.
My friend at work is a Pelicans fan, and we put basketball up on the TV at work, and so it was his login, and so we watched every single Pelicans game.
Oh my god!
Between obviously doing stuff at work, but every single Pelicans game was up at work.
I feel so sorry for your friend. What a miserable. Like, we do a podcast with a Kings fan. I've been doing this podcast with you as a Clippers fan for who knows how long.
Yeah. I mean, are the Pelicans the only organization that's worse than the Kings? Probably.
And yet they beat the Kings every year, and so the Kings fans just feel even worse about themselves.
Yeah.
I do at least. So the thing that has Ingram over LaVine in my mind is the fact that he does do a little bit more on ball. He can generate offense. He will dribble. He play makes, albeit not the greatest, but still 5 assists a game. He is getting in there and trying things, and it is generating some stuff. LaVine, in practicality, is one of the best catch and shoot players. He hit 44.5% from 3 last year. I wish there was some defense. Like, not that Ingram plays a ton, but I don't know. Both these guys were guys that at one point teams thought of as being like a top tier option for them, and then have just slowly faded.
Yeah, they fall into this difficult position of being guys that their skill set is best suited to being the number one option to having the ball all the time, or a lot of the time, but then the offense is never actually good with them on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's tricky. Like you can't scale them down because they need to have the ball. Maybe Levine a little bit more than Ingram. But yeah, you can't scale them down, but you also, if you are just having them be your main guy, you're not going to be very good.
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier in the pod, but like part of me really struggles with this idea that, like, hey, you're a 20 points per game scorer, and that doesn't mean anything anymore because there's just so many 20 points per game scorers. I just went back to the year 2000. Do you want to guess how many 20 points per game scorers there were in that season?
8.
Guys averaging 20. It's significantly more still.
Okay.
I mean,
you've got to have you've got to have like almost one per team. Like your best player needs to be like almost 20 points per game scorer. And so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. If we go back to 2015, there were 20. If we go to last season, there are 34. Like part of it is the increase in scoring volume just across the league. The other part of it is how many guys are playing, fewer games, to where if we actually take off the filter for minimum of games played, there's 50 guys who averaged 20 points per game last season. Just, you've got a lot more opportunity with leading scorers taking time off. Instead of playing 80 games, they play 60 games. So then the secondary scorers can boost their numbers in the games that the stars are out. Like, I don't know, just having these 20 points per game scorers just is really not as valuable as it used to be, especially in Ingram's case when he plays 18 games.
Yeah, and especially when you consider that there is a lot of value in scoring, and we see it creating offense is probably the most valuable skills in the NBA. But there are certain guys where that doesn't translate into good team offense, which is the case with these guys.
Yeah. All right, Mr. 75, we have Denny Avdia. Another pre versus post All-Star game splits, just guru. Denny pre All-Star game, him 14 points per game, 6 boards, 3 assists. Post All-Star game, 23, 9, and 5. They have true shooting of 64%. It's so good. And like I'm really nervous about Portland's fans' expectations, because I feel like they're like, hey, we're going to be 500 minimum. We might be above it. We're going to make the play, at least play in, maybe playoffs. And I'm like,
I would actually be a Portland believer. Like I am a Portland believer to a degree. If they were in the East, like if they were in the East, I'd be like, I think this might be a good team. But the fact that they're in the West, and the West is so fucking difficult, is rough for them. Also, their bench is garbage, but like they've got like 6 really good players.
Also, their bench is garbage. Just yeah. I think Denny. Listen, early season money should be on Denny for most improved. It's what makes sense. It's where they should be looking. I'm interested to see what happens with Portland. I mean, the Hansen Yang, or Yang Hansen, I forget which way we're supposed to say his name. I think it's Yang Hansen.
I think so.
I forget what it is. I know in some Asian cultures you do the surname is actually the first name. And
the family
Yao,
name comes first.
Yeah.
So I think, which is what we got wrong with Yao Ming. I think it's supposed to be Ming Yao.
Yao was on the back of his jersey.
Yeah. because they got
Ming
it
is
wrong.
is Ming
Yeah.
his first? Like, if you're casually in conversation, do you say "Sup Ming," or do you say "What's up,
No,
Yao"?
Yao, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Which is why Yao was on the back of the jersey, because it's the family name.
That tracks. That tracks.
Or no, it's the other way. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Young Hansen is correct.
I I really should know this. My mother lived in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and parts of mainland China for about 3 years, and speaks Mandarin, Cantonese, Taiwanese, Japanese, and one other Asian language. She taught English as a second language. My mother's a very interesting woman, but
We should get her on the pod.
no basketball takes.
She can just clarify the correct structure of Chinese players' names. We make her sit here for 2 hours of a podcast. She's bored to death, and then we're like, Mrs. Schwartz, is it Young Hansen or the other way?
Yeah, yeah. But back to Denny, I think that too much is going to be made of the last year late season success, where teams were actively trying to tank, and then some of the other Western Conference teams just went through really, big injuries. Like the Spurs were not actively trying to tank. I think the Mavs were not actively trying to tank. They just imploded, and so that opened up a little bit more of a door. I mean,
actually, no. Yeah, the Lakers got Lucas, so they were all right.
Yeah, the Lakers finished the season well.
Yeah. And so, like, if you're expecting Denny to be like a really good number one or number two option, like, you may be disappointed. But with that scoring ability, the shooting, the finishing, the connective, the connective playmaking, the elite rebounding at his position, both defensively and offensively, and then the defensive playmaking, like he's doing a lot of stuff on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a good spot for him. I would not expect him to be, or any Portland player to be, in any sort of all-star contention this next year. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm happy about that. So be it. But I think
I think their starters are gonna be really good. Like once they go to the bench, I think they'll suck. But I think starters, they've got like top 5 defensive potential.
Let's see, who all do they have? I know. I hope that they're starting in Scoot. Maybe they start Drew, but that's a solid 2-point guard combination. And you've got the Tamani Kamara,
Tamani Kamara, Denny Avdia, and
Donovan
Clingan,
and Yang Hansen.
I hope he doesn't play too much. I don't think he's going to be good this year. Hopefully, Rob Williams can play. If they've got Donovan, Clingan, and Time Lord as their centers, like no one is going to score against them.
You will not believe.
And then Tamani Kamara and Denny Avdia and Drew Holiday.
And Grant is not nothing.
I think he fell off a lot last year. I think he is nothing now.
Well, if he comes off the bench, maybe just to be worthwhile. Yeah, I don't know.
Probably a decent level as a bench, like a backup forward.
Hey, we've now named like 10 Blazers that you like, so that's more than nothing. But I think this is a good place to wrap a cool hour and 53 minutes into recording. Dylan, any final takes for the top players, or how you wish you spent Mamba Day?
No.
All right. Email the show, hoopstemple@gmail.com. You can find me, Nate_hoopstemple on TikTok. Love to hear from you guys. Catch you later.